All right. Hey, well, good morning, Wildlife. You guys still with us? Still ready to go? Awesome stuff. Hey, I'm excited to be with you guys on this Sunday morning. If you and I haven't had the chance to meet, my name is Johnny. I'm the pastor here at Wildlife, and what we are about to do is we are about to head into what we call a time of teaching. But before we do that, I want to highlight a couple of things going on in Wildlife, but also here at Rocky Peak. As you guys heard earlier, RPK, our kids ministry here at Rocky Peak, is looking for more volunteers, as a lot of their volunteers are moving on. A lot of the seniors here at Rocky Peak are graduating soon, so they might be going off to college and getting older and, eventually, pay taxes and stuff. Hopefully some of them are paying them now. But anyway, hey, they are looking for volunteers. So if you are interested at all in becoming a volunteer in RPK, like birth to fifth grade, I would highly encourage you to grab one of these handouts in the back table. There's a QR code on the back there. If you don't have a smartphone, hopefully your parents do. If you scan that, that's how you can sign up to start just getting more questions. It doesn't mean you're immediately serving. It means that you are interested and you want more information. What I love, it says on the back here, is that their goal is to help kids do three things. One, know who God is, grow in the love for him, and learn to follow Jesus. So if that is something you're interested in helping, like a third grader or a first grader know, man, we would love for you to partner with RPK. And the cool thing is that maybe you go to Wildlife on Sunday morning at the 9 o'clock service, and then you go and serve at the 11 o'clock service, and your whole day is spent here at Rocky Peak. So we would love for you to do that, all right? Also, we have tournament series coming up this Wednesday, and I'm excited for week 1 of tournament series. Now, if you have someone in your mind that you want to invite to tournament series, we want to encourage you to grab one of these handouts in the back. These are an invite card. You can just think about it like this, like one invite card per one person you want to invite, someone that maybe normally wouldn't ever come to church or step foot on a church campus like this, or maybe someone that doesn't know Jesus yet, and you want them to come to experience who Jesus is and what church can be like, all right? So grab these invite cards. They're on the back table. Grab like maybe 5 or 7 of them. We have a lot of them, but all we ask is if you grab one, you're going to invite one other middle school student, someone maybe at school, someone in your homeroom, someone maybe that is on the team that you're on, just someone that is also in middle school. We would love for them to be a part of tournament series, and it's going to be a blast, all right? Go Gladiators. Anyway, not biased. But also, let's be honest, like, Cyborgs is pretty sick, and then the other two are fine. Hey, I'm joking. Whoa. All right. Anyway, hey, I'm just joking. Hey, we're going to jump into this time of teaching. So a great way to follow along is with what we call a message note sheet. It looks just like this. Go ahead and grab one. Wave it above your head so you know you have one. Awesome. If you are brand new to Wildlife, this is a great way to follow along as we head into this time. This is not a test. It's not a quiz. We're not trying to trick you in any way. It's just a great way, hopefully, to follow along. If you notice on the front and the back, there's some fill in the blanks. So use that as a great tool throughout this time. The fill-ins are going to be on the screens behind me. So again, it's not a test. We're not going to make sure you got all the right answers. That's just a great way for all of us to pursue God together. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pray. Remember, this is not a time to be a distraction. So don't be talking to your neighbor. Don't be on your phone. Don't be lighting your friend's chair on fire. You may have time for that later, but right now we don't. All right. So let's go ahead and pray, and we will jump right in. Jesus, thank you so much that we get to gather here, that this is a beautiful opportunity that all of us together get to participate and share together. Jesus, we ask that through the power of your Spirit, would you be the main focus this morning? If we came in this room with full of distractions, worries, fear, anxiety, whatever's going on, Jesus, we just ask that those distractions would be pushed off to the side so that you, our King, our ruler, our Father, could be our focus this morning. I pray for myself that I would become so much less, so you as our King and our Father, our ruler, would become so much more. Jesus, we love you, and it's in your name we all said amen. Hey, let me ask you a question. This question is a rhetorical question, meaning you don't need to answer this question out loud. Just think about it in your head right now. Here's the question. Have you ever fought a battle before that no one else could see? Like, not a battle like in Fortnite or like Call of Duty or like I'm battling my siblings all the time. Like nothing like that. Like a battle you can't really see. Let me get a little bit further. Like something on the inside of you. Something that is just toying with your emotions, that you're wrestling with, that maybe for you, it's something like this, that you are trying your hardest not to snap back at your parents. Others of us, maybe it's trying not to look at something you shouldn't be looking at. Others of us, maybe it's trying not to care what people might think about you, or trying not to lose it when someone embarrasses you. That I think in a room this size, a lot of us have been there before, or maybe we're there right now, that there's something inside of us that it just feels like we are at war. We feel like there is this battle raging on. But on the outside, you look completely fine. You look normal. But on the inside, you would say that you are dying. Others of us, we think that battles, something that we battle, is really loud, but to be honest, sometimes the battles within are quiet, but they are so loud that it's hard to focus. Again, everyone in this room, for the most part, we're all battling something. And what we're going to be looking at this morning is that as we wrap up this series, Jesus is going to share something pretty significant, that when we are fighting something, when we are battling with something, we don't have to battle those things alone. If you've been with us over this past month, we've been in this series called Who He Is, where what we've been looking at is we've been discovering together who God is, where we've been allowing Jesus to define who God is for himself. We don't let culture or social media or TikTok pastors define who Jesus is. We let Jesus define who he is, and then we accept that as reality, and we live from there. And what we've been looking at is God's character. If you've been with us, character is simply who you are at your core. All of us in this room have character, whether it's good character or bad character. Character is who you are when no one else is around. Your character is who you are in that group chat when no adult is around. Character is who you are when your teacher leaves the room for 10 minutes. Character matters. And what's beautiful about who God is that we get to know God on a personal level, that we get to know his very character. And what's awesome is Jesus has been revealing God's character through what we call the Lord's Prayer, this epic model of how we can pray. Not that it has to be word for word, even though some people pray like that, and that's awesome and beautiful. But this prayer of showing us when we talk to God, and that's simply what prayer is, like you would be talking to a good friend. When you talk to God, we don't need to filter our words. We don't need to sound super smart. Jesus just wants us to be honest and real when we pray to him. So this morning, we're going to be looking at another aspect of who God's character is, that God is not just our Father, he's not just our King, our provider, but more importantly, he is also our protector. That when we go in certain battles, God is going to be with us, and he's actually going to be fighting for us. So if you have a Bible with you, we're going to be opening up to the book of Matthew, and we're going to be starting in chapter 6. Now, if you've been with us, you'll know that Matthew is in the second half of the Bible, but if you are brand new, you've never opened up a Bible before, as you know, we have some Bibles that you can borrow in the back, but we really want to encourage you as a ministry to get your own Bible. Not because you can't borrow one of ours, but the goal is like we want you to get your own Bible so that you can start marking it up, underlining things, circling things, so that you can start learning and discovering God himself through his word in your own personal Bible. They're like $5 on Amazon. For whatever reason, you're like, Johnny, can you help me out? We'll figure it out together. We'll get you a Bible. But it's important that all of us have a Bible this morning. So we're going to be in Matthew chapter 6. And we're going to be starting in verse 13. Well, we're going to be looking at verse 13, but for this morning, let's reread starting at verse 9. So give me a thumbs up if you're there already. Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. Again, second half of the Bible known as the New Testament. Here we go. So remember, Jesus has been teaching to this crowd of Pharisees and Jewish people, and really what he's addressing here, and the reason why he's sharing with them how to pray, is that a lot of people during this time, especially Pharisees, these teachers of the law, so to speak, kind of like pastors during their day, they would go off and pray these long, drawn-out prayers, sometimes in public, so that when they do this, people would see them as holier than thou, and that these long prayers would somehow make God impressed with them. And Jesus is trying to break that stigma by he's saying like, hey, when you pray to God, you don't have to sound super smart. You have to pray for like 20 minutes straight. Like what's important about prayer, what Jesus is trying to help us understand is like, hey, when you pray, just be honest and real. If your prayer is 3 words, if your prayer is just like a minute of just praying, like whatever it is, as long as you're honest and real, that is what God cares about. So he says this in verse 9. This is then how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Remember, we looked at God as our Father, and his name is awesome. It's hallowed. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So God is a king. And what we talked about a few weeks ago is that you can't be sitting on the throne and letting God sit on the throne at the same time. Like, we need to give up control in our lives so that we can let God be our king and our ruler. And then in verse 11, what we looked at last week is that we need, he says, give us today our daily bread, that this daily dependence on Jesus, that we should not be living for tomorrow, because the Bible talks about that. We are never guaranteed tomorrow. But so many of us in this room, so many of us here in the United States, we live for tomorrow. We live for next week. We are trying to plan out the next 5 years. And Jesus is trying to help us understand that, no, we need to be going before God and asking him, Jesus, would you just give me today what I need? And then in verse 12, he says, and forgive us our debts as we have also been forgiven our debtors. So this idea that Jesus has forgiven us from all of our sin, all of our wrongdoing, and now we need to forgive other people the way Jesus has forgiven us. And again, what we talked about last week is that, man, forgiveness can be really hard for a lot of us, because some of us in this room, we might say, well, Johnny, you have no idea what I've been through. You have no idea how they have hurt me and wronged me. And you're right. I have no idea how someone has hurt and wronged you, or someone might do that in the future. But Jesus says that, hey, I forgive you for all of your sin, all of your wrongdoing. Now, I expect you, as someone who is following me, a Christian, that you forgive other people the way I have forgiven you. And, we wrestle with that. But this morning, we're going to wrap this up by looking at verse 13. So you guys there? If you're still turning there, I give you so much time. All right, verse 13. And Jesus wraps up by, he says, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Now, if you have a pen with you, I'm going to have you underline a couple of words so that we can focus on those words later on. So if you have a pen with you, or maybe a crayon or something, why don't you do me a favor, underline the word temptation, that super fun word temptation. We'll talk about that later. And then underline the word deliver, and then the word evil. These three words we're going to be looking at this morning: temptation, deliver, and evil. Now, for the rest of our time, what I want to do is I want to kind of take a big step back and ask this question, like, what is Jesus revealing to us, and how can we really unpack this further to really get at the root of what Jesus is showing us? So there in your note sheet, your first fill-in is this. This is what we call the big thing. If you don't remember like anything this morning, remember this big thing. Here's your fill-in. God protects and strengthens you in every battle. God protects and strengthens you in every battle. That a lot of us in this room, we are battling things, something that is within us. And it feels like we've been battling maybe for weeks, maybe months, if not years. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's bitterness towards a parent. Maybe it's jealousy. Maybe it's lust. Whatever it is, a lot of us are battling things. But the big thing is that God protects and strengthens you in every battle. There's two big ideas from this verse 13 in chapter 6 of Matthew that I think is super important that Jesus is revealing to us. The first one is temptation, and the second one is evil. So this morning, this topic is going to be kind of heavy, but you got this, Wildlife. We're going to handle this together, right? But here's the important thing. Jesus wouldn't be teaching us about this if the battle wasn't real, all right? So let's unpack this further. On the bottom of your note sheet, here's your first fill-in as we unpack the big thing together. Write this down. God fights for you. God fights for you. That if you are a 6th, 7th, or 8th grade student this morning, which hopefully you are, if you're like, I don't know, I'm 45, get out of here. Actually, well, anyway. Like God fights for you. He loves you. He cares about you. When Jesus says, deliver us from evil, he is not saying, God, watch us fight. He's not saying, hey, good luck, figure it out on your own. He's saying, God, would you deliver us from evil? I don't know if you know this. We live in a very evil, wicked world. And if you don't believe me, like just turn on the news, like go on social media and then immediately get off of it. Like it is an evil, wicked world. And it feels like every single day there is something new, something that is just incredibly evil going on. But the good thing of what we're seeing is that God fights for us. Jesus says, God, would you deliver us? That word deliver means to rescue. It means to save or redeem. That God, would you deliver us from evil? Jesus is basically saying like, hey, acknowledge that we live in a messed up world, but God is our King and our Father, our ruler, our provider. He can deliver us from evil, that he can provide a way out. And that means there's a real evil, there's a real temptation, and more importantly, there is a real enemy out there, Satan. Jesus describes in John 10:10 that the enemy, Satan, his goal in life is to steal, kill, and destroy your life. And Jesus describes that Jesus has brought life so that we can experience this life to the full. That if we choose to put our trust in Jesus, it doesn't mean our life is going to suddenly get easier, but it means that even when trials come, even when evil is here, we can depend on who God is because he's that good. But here's the truth, is that you are not strong enough to handle this on your own. Sorry to like burst that bubble this morning. You are not strong enough to handle this on your own. And I'm not trying to insult you. I don't know, maybe I am. But that's just reality. Think about it when you were a little kid and you were trying to lift, like you were trying to get all the grocery bags from your mom's minivan. And you're like, Mom, I got this. Has anyone ever been there? I still do that. And I'm an adult. I'm like, Brie, check this out. Like, I'm impressed. You know, like, I'm your husband. Look at me. And then I failed. But anyway, like when you were a little kid and you were trying to get all the grocery bags out of your mom's car, because you were like, I got this. I am super strong. And I'm sure you were. But there was probably a moment when you were trying to lift something super, super heavy that you just couldn't do. You started to wobble a little bit. You started to strain a little bit. And you almost dropped all the eggs. I know. I did that a few months ago. I was so mad at myself. Anyway, they were still tasty. But your dad steps in and says, hey, let me help you. And a lot of us in this room, myself included, when someone comes into our story and says, hey, let me help you, sometimes we say, no, I got this. No, I'm going to figure it out. And a lot of us, it's hard to give up control, kind of what we talked about a few weeks ago, because we want to be in control. We think we got this. And the reality is we don't always got this. But your dad grabs all of those groceries, something big you're trying to carry, and says like, hey, I got this. Let me help you. In a similar way, this prayer is basically like God is saying like, hey, you can't carry this alone. Jesus is saying, God, would you deliver us from evil? Would you rescue us from evil? And he says, I'm here. I'm going to help you. So that's number one. God fights for you. Number two is this. This is the big one. We'll talk a little longer about this. Number two is this. You are not alone in temptation. You are not alone in temptation. That for a lot of us in this room, this word temptation is a big word. It's not just a long word. It's a big word because it brings so many different emotions and thoughts. That temptation at its core is simply this. It's not there in your note sheet, but if you want to write it down, I would encourage you to do so. Temptation is simply wanting something that pulls you away from God. Temptation is wanting something that is going to pull you away from God. Another way to say that is temptation is a desire that is going to draw you further and further away from Jesus. And temptation can look very different for a lot of us in this room, that some of us, we get the temptation to talk back to our parents, that our parents say something to us. Maybe they ask you to take out the trash or do the dishes or say, stop punching your brother. I don't know. There might be a temptation in us to talk back to our parents. We get an attitude and we just talk back to them and snap at them. Normally it doesn't ever go well. Like, I don't know any parent that when their child snaps back at them, they're like, oh, you're so right. Like, I'm so sorry. No, that's not how it works, right? When we have an attitude to our parents, that might be a temptation. Others of us, maybe it's rolling our eyes and having an attitude. Maybe it's lying to avoid getting in trouble. Like, I don't know if anyone has ever done that. Have you ever lied? I don't need you to raise your hand. Could you imagine, like, yep, every day. Like, I don't know, good for you. Glad you're not lying now. But, like, have you ever lied to an authority of your parents, your teachers, so that you wouldn't get in trouble? Even more so, have you ever lied so that you get your brother or sister in trouble as well? Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, some of you are raising your hand. I appreciate it. But a lot of us have that temptation to do so. And I know a lot of us are kind of chuckling right now, but temptation is real. Some of us in this room, we have the temptation to look at something we shouldn't have. Maybe it's pornography or something like that. Like, we have the temptation maybe to gossip in our group chat. Maybe it's the temptation to cheat on our homework. When you're in elementary school, or maybe even now, but when you're in elementary school and you're taking like a test at school, did you ever have those folders? Yeah. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Because there's something in us where we want to look over to our friend and see, like, what did they get for number 3? Like, there's just something in us that we have this desire, and we get tempted to cheat sometimes. Others of us, maybe it's excluding someone to feel cool, or maybe it's obsessing over what people might think about you. All of us in this room, we get tempted all the time. And here's what I want you to catch. Whether it's something small or something big, temptation is real. But temptation doesn't just show up the same for everyone. But the truth is that we all feel it sometimes. And the truth, when temptation, it feels exciting. It sometimes feels easy. And sometimes it feels normal. Like, I don't know anyone that wakes up one morning and says, you know what, I'm really excited to sin today. Like, I just can't look forward to it enough. Like, none of us feel that way. But when temptation hits, it feels easy. It feels real. It feels normal. And we get excited. And what's interesting is that the enemy, he sneaks into our lives. Satan is sneaky. He is very real. And he sometimes whispers into our life when temptation hits. He says, hey, you know what? It's not a big deal. Like, everyone does that. Maybe no one will know. Like, no one's going to know if you just cheat on number 7, or no one's going to know if you just click on that video. Like, no one's going to know. Like, temptation is really challenging, especially when your parents aren't around, when no one else is around, when it's 2 a.m. and you're awake for some reason. Temptation gets real. But I think sometimes the enemy brings this lie: you're the only one that struggles with this. I know when I was in middle school and I was tempted before, this lie would come in all the time. Hey, you're the only one that struggles with this. That the enemy is sneaky. He tempts us sometimes, and he tricks us into thinking that this temptation is the only way out. But the lie is that you're not the only one that struggles with this, because I think sometimes when we isolate ourselves, when we have our lives, when we don't talk to anyone else, we don't bring anyone else into our situation, that is when temptation begins to grow, when you're isolated and alone. But there's good news. When it comes to temptation, the Apostle Paul addresses this in 1 Corinthians 10:13. What I love is how he highlights this to this church in Corinth. And hear me, this is a really messed up church he was writing to. This church was claiming they were following Jesus well, and Paul was like, yeah, you're not. And he brings this up when it comes to temptation. Listen to this. He says, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond anything you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. Can you do me a favor? Can you put a big circle around that word provide? Because what Paul, who wrote this letter to the church in Corinth, he's revealing to them, like, hey, everyone gets tempted. Temptation can be very common, but God is faithful, meaning you can trust God. And what I love is that he wraps this up. He says, you know, when you are tempted, he will provide a way out so that you can endure it. If you're a follower of Jesus, You weren't meant to do life alone. You weren't meant to live a life of isolation. That's why it is so important to be in a life group, to be here at Wildlife, to have other people in your life speaking into your life, calling you higher, challenging you to pursue Jesus. And you might see some Christians out there that think that they don't need to go to church. It's just me and Jesus, and we are good. Hear me, that is stupid, because Jesus calls us to be in community and to be a part of something so much bigger than ourselves. What I love is what C.S. Lewis describes in this quote. It's there in your note sheet. If you're not familiar with C.S. Lewis, he wrote the Chronicles of Narnia series. He's a super old man. He's passed away, but he is super wise. He loved Jesus. And this is what he said when it comes to community and friendships. He says, friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, "What, you too? I thought I was the only one." Have you ever been there when you first encountered that friend of yours, like maybe it's your best friend, and you found out something that you have in common with one another? Like, whoa, you love tacos? Me too. Like, oh my gosh, you love that movie or that genre of music? Like, whoa, me too. And then you can relate in that way. And in the same way, when it comes to temptation, something that you've been struggling with, when someone shares in maybe a life group situation, hey, I've been struggling with this, or gossiping, or lust, or this, and someone goes, whoa, you too? I thought I was the only one. And that kind of just makes this so much bigger, that you're not doing this life thing alone, but the enemy wants you to be isolated. God gave us people so that we don't have to do life alone. And that's what I love about this verse. Again, he says, he will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. That maybe for you, the way out of temptation is your life group, the community around you. Maybe it's walking away. Maybe it's closing that app. Maybe it's telling a leader. Maybe it's leaving the room. Or maybe it's simply just saying no. But again, temptation is so much more challenging when you are doing it by yourself, isolated. Again, when 1 a.m. hits and you're awake for some reason and that temptation comes up, it is so much easier to follow through with that temptation if you just continue to do life alone. But maybe for you, it's calling your life group leader at 1 a.m. Sorry, life group leaders, but we're trying to help them follow Jesus. But maybe for you, you just get on the phone with your leader and you just say, hey, this is what's going on. I need help. Can you pray for me right now? Rather than, I got this. I'm going to figure it out on my own. Here's the truth, is that temptation isn't sin. Temptation isn't sin. Jesus was tempted, but we know that he never sinned. So therefore, temptation isn't sin. What is sin, though, is giving into temptation. Like all of us encounter temptation all the time. Some might feel really big temptation. Some might kind of small temptation. All of it is temptation. That's not the sin. Giving into the temptation is. And you don't win by pretending you're strong and everything is fine. The way you win and beat temptation is you bring it into the light. You tell your life group leaders, you tell your friends, your community, hey, this is what's going on. Would you help me? And we'll talk more about that later on. Number 3 is this: God's strength is greater than any struggle. God's strength is greater than any struggle. That so many of us in this room, when we are dealing with a battle within, it feels like it is non-stop warfare. And we are struggling. We are tired and exhausted. We don't have to do this by ourselves. You don't have to win battles by trying harder. You win battles by trusting Jesus. The world around us says that you need to be stronger. But Jesus says, no, you need to be dependent on me. Again, going back to verse 11 in chapter 6 of Matthew, give us our daily bread. The world says, hey, you got this. What did we learn this morning? You don't got this. You need help. I need help. Jesus says, hey, let me help you. Again, you don't win battles by trying harder, by white knuckling it. You win the battle by going before Jesus and saying, hey, I need your help. I trust you. You win the battle by going to your life group leader and being, hey, I need your help. Would you help me? Would you pray for me? That is how we win. The enemy wants you to be isolated. God wants you to be protected. The enemy wants you to feel ashamed that whatever temptation you're dealing with, Satan wants you to feel all the shame and hurt from it. Jesus wants you to be called out of that shame so much that he died for you, that God wants you to be rescued. The enemy wants you tired and exhausted. And that's why sometimes when it's late at night, early in the morning, again, I don't know why you're awake during that time, like that's when temptation feels really real because we're tired. We have our guards down. And that's when the enemy, that's when Satan steps in and starts whispering all these lies. But God's faithful. He has provided a way out for all of us in this room. Maybe it's our life group leaders. Maybe it's our parents, just being honest with our parents. Here's what's going on. Maybe it's getting rid of your smartphone for a season or indefinitely. Maybe it's other areas of how you can win this battle. But here's the thing I want you to catch. You're not fighting for a victory because the battle's already been won. You're fighting from a victory. See, what's beautiful about the cross of Jesus and what we call the gospel, this good news, is that you could try harder all you want. Nothing's going to be different about it. But you can actually live from the victory that Jesus has provided us, because Jesus didn't just forgive us from our sin when he died on the cross so that we can be reconciled, be made right before God. He died so that he could defeat sin and death and Satan forever. Like the battle's already won, like it's over. And if you're a follower of Jesus, you get to live in that truth that you have won the battle because Jesus has defeated sin and death forever. Not because you did anything, but because Jesus has done everything, and that changes everything. That when you remember that Jesus has done everything for you, all you have to do is just live in it. Trust Jesus, that when temptation strikes, remind yourself, Jesus, you are good. You're my Father. You're King. You're my provider. You forgive me. You are my protector. All these different characteristics we've looked at over the last month. Remind yourself, Jesus, you're that good. And I'm going to put my trust in you. So let me ask you a question. What battle are you pretending you don't have right now? Like you're just being super honest. You're like, you know what? Everything's sunshine and rainbows. Everything's good. But on the inside, you're full of anxiety, anger, lust, comparison, fear. What is it for you? And instead of hiding it, go before Jesus. Say, God, would you protect me? Would you strengthen me? Would you show me a way out? Because real strength, biblical strength, is not pretending everything's fine. It's going before Jesus saying, hey, I need your help. So here's our action step this morning as the band comes up. Here's the action step, how we can live this out. Name the battle and then ask for help. What battle is it for you that you are struggling with right now, that you've been trying to fight on your own and you have been losing time and time again? Maybe it's lust. Maybe you have this area of lust that has been a huge burden for you, that maybe if you're being honest and real, that it's pornography in your life and it's just like this deep root in you that you rely on it every single day. And maybe because you were exposed to it at school or at a friend's house, and now you just rely on it so much that you get tempted all the time. You're stressed out, you go to porn. Or maybe others of us, it's comparison, that when you see other people and you're like, oh, they have this, they have that, I don't have any of that. And you start comparing yourself to them. And maybe it's that battle. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's jealousy. Maybe it's cheating. Again, you're trying to go throughout your middle school career and you're trying to cheat in every class because that's how you think you're going to win. Or maybe it's lying. Whatever it is, when temptation hits, don't try harder, because none of us can try harder. We're just going to get frustrated. We're going to get burnt out. But we need to pause and go before Jesus and just say a simple prayer. If you want to write this down, you can. It's simple. It's nothing fancy. Again, what we've been looking at in this series is that God doesn't want our fancy sounding prayers. He wants us honest and real. Maybe for you, it's just simply going before God when you're tempted and you're going, God, would you help me? That maybe for you, the help in your life is a life group leader. Maybe it's your parents in your life. Maybe it's a good friend that also loves Jesus. Maybe for you, it's just keep coming back to Wildlife every weekend. Maybe you're going to commit to being here on a Sunday morning, Saturday night, or come throughout tournament series and get plugged into Wildlife. Because here in Wildlife, our goal is to not do life alone. We want to do life in community, in a body like this, where we get to rely on one another as we point to one another to Jesus, who is our protector. Let's go ahead and pray. Jesus, thank you so much that we get to rely on you. You are our protector. You fight for us. We don't have to do life alone. We don't have to do temptation by ourselves. And Jesus, you strengthen us when the battle gets real. So whatever we're dealing with in our lives right now, whether it's lust, whether it's comparison, whether it's lying all the time because we're afraid of something else happening if we don't lie. Maybe we're afraid of the consequence that brings. Jesus, wherever we're coming from, we just ask for the power of your Spirit. Would you convict us? Meaning, would you point us to your truth so that we can follow you for all of our days? Jesus, we love you. And it's in your name we all said, amen. Yeah, I'm going to invite you guys to do something. I'm going to invite you guys to stand on up. And before we go into this last song, we did this last night, and I thought it was just really cool and powerful. I'm going to reread this whole prayer that Jesus has been showing us over this last month. And all I want you to do is just kind of close your eyes. And as we've been looking at these different characteristics of who Jesus is, would you just kind of like think about one that stands out to you? Maybe it's God as your father, maybe as your king, your provider, protector, forgiver, like whatever it is. I'm going to invite you just to close your eyes right now. And the reason for that is it really just helps you focus, helps me focus. So we're not like looking around the room. This is just between you and Jesus right now. So I'm going to invite you to go ahead and close your eyes and listen to this. This is then how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Let's go into this last song. Amen, guys. Go ahead and grab a seat. And as you do, can we thank the band for leading us in our time of worship? Awesome stuff. Hey, before you head out, remember your message note sheet is a great way to follow along, but it's also a great way to share just one thing with your parents on your way home this morning, because they might be asking you, like, hey, what'd you learn at Wildlife? Just find one thing on that note sheet to share with them. Maybe it's the big thing. Maybe it's the action step, because your parents would love to hear what you've been learning in Wildlife, all right? Hey, a couple things before you head out. Remember, if you want to sign up to serve for RPK, signups are in the back. You can grab a handout for your way home. Also, this Wednesday is Tournament Series Week 1. I'm excited. Grab an invite card. Think of one person in your life that you can invite that you would love to see meet Jesus one day, all right? So grab an invite card, and we'll see you guys this Wednesday.